webinar. And as you heard the machine say, when we're recording this webinar, so any questions and things that you put in that will be asked, and say really helpful to know where you come from, so that then the message gets back to your partners and centres. So we're going to sort of kick off. We can have the next slide, please, and we'll just run through all the little bits. That's great. So it's sort of asking you to have your microphones and cameras off, but that's already been done for you. So one less thing to think about. There'll be a couple of opportunities for Q&A. We'll stop it's about halfway through, I think. And then again at the end, and normally we use the chat box, but I see there's quite a lot in Q&A. So Ellie, which would you prefer? Because it says on here in the Q&A box, where should people put things?
Questions in the Q&A box, I think, because
Okay, that's terrific. And yes, as we said before, please put in your name and the branch centre, just so that we know where you're from. That would be really helpful. Thank you. And we'll move on. So the sort of overview of the session, we're here for, well, for as long as really as you need us to be. The actual presentation will be around an hour. That's what it took last week, so I reckon it'll be about the same. So we'll sort of meet the team, the delivery team. We're very, very lucky to have Kerry here from the Blue Cross, who is the sponsor of this amazing competition. So she'll be chatting to us, talk a bit about what the competition is, where the questions come from and how the scores are worked out, a little bit about assessors, so that you know where your assessors are coming from. And then really importantly, how to train for the competition, the rules, because there's now a really great clear rule book that will give you all that information, but Amelia will be able to run through that with you, the results and qualifiers, and what else is on offer this year. And as I say, we'll probably stop for Q&A halfway through and then again at the end. Great, Ellie, thanks. So the team sort of mainly, we have a few extra people supporting this evening, which is great. So Ellie is in the office, who's the sports assistant, and hasn't been with Pony Club very long, but she hit the ground running, and so she's looking after a lot of the unmounted activities, which is great. Amelia Morris-Payne, who some of you may well have come across. Amelia is the one that picked up the horse and pony care and ran with it a few years ago, and it's now grown beyond anything that we could imagine, which is just wonderful. We also have Fran Penn with us this evening, who is the chief assessor and writes questions for the championships. We have Di Pegram with us, who is the new vice chair and is also an assessor for horse and pony care and very interested in it. We have Elizabeth, whose last name I can't remember, who is one of the main scorers and is just somebody at the championships that none of us could do without. She just holds the whole thing together and is just amazing. And as I say, Kerry from the Blue Cross. I think that's everybody that's there. And I'm Lee, and I'm the chair of the centre committee. So centres are really my big thing. And I also help Fran with question writing and do quite a lot of assessing. Okay, thank you. And now we will hand over to Kerry from the Blue Cross, as I say, who are wonderful sponsors and come back year after year and support this wonderful competition. Okay, Kerry, over to you.
Thank you, Lee. I'd just like to say I'm so pleased to be here. So thank you so much for inviting me. Each year when we come to the championships, we are just so impressed by how much effort and hard work the members put into the horse and pony care competition. And we know that couldn't be possible without everyone here as well. So just a big thank you from me, and I'll be excited again to see it at the champs this year. So if I could just have the next slide, please, Ellie. So I'll just give you a little bit of an overview of Blue Cross. So we're an animal welfare charity, and we originally started in 1897. So we were very much on the streets of London helping the horses, the working horses, making sure they had enough food, enough water, and that they were treated when they needed it. So our roots are in horses, actually, and that's part of why I love the partnership that we have with Pony Club. So as you can see on the slide, we do other animals as well. So we do horses, and we have 2 horse centres, so one at Burford and one at Ralston, which is Staffordshire way. But we also do other animals as well. So from your small furries, like your hamsters and guinea pigs and rabbits, to dogs and cats. We are very much a rehoming charity. So every pet that comes into us, we will do our best to rehome. We're not sanctuary. We don't keep animals at our sites. We want to find them loving new homes, because we really know how much pets can bring to people and how much of a big part of the family that they are. So there's many different reasons that we get pets into the centres. Sometimes it might be because someone can't look after them anymore. Maybe they've moved house and they're now renting. It could be there's been a family breakup. It could be that there's behavioural issues and they need a bit of support and they can't care for that animal anymore. Now, we are very much non-judgmental about this. We would always prefer someone to come and ask us for help. And actually, most of the time, it's that last choice. They've done everything that they can. And unfortunately, they think, right, the best thing for my pet is actually to come to a charity like Blue Cross. We also get a number of pets in from other animal welfare charities. So specifically, if I'm looking at horses, we might work with the RSPCA, the British Horse Society, World Horse Welfare, and we'll help with any animals who aren't being looked after properly. Maybe their welfare is compromised and the RSPCA have had to step in. Then we will support them and we will try and rehome them. So rehoming is very much at the heart of what we do here at Blue Cross. But there are other elements as well. So we offer veterinary treatment as well. We've got 4 animal hospitals, and we've got 3 in London and 1 up north in Grimsby. And they provide treatment for pets where owners can't afford to treat them. So they get discounted treatment. Now, this can be from preventative, so wormer and flea treatment, to a dog that's just been run over, a cat that's fallen out of a window of a high-rise flat. It's a massive variety. Our hospitals are amazing. And our Victoria Hospital, actually, in London, was the first ever animal hospital built and is still there to this day. And it's a real amazing treat to go there and see how the animals are being looked after and owners supported, really. So veterinary is still a big part of what we do at Blue Cross. We do education, so that's where I'm from. So I manage our education team. We work with partnerships like Pony Club, but we also offer a big schools program where we go in and we try and inspire that kind of next generation of pet owners to look after their pets, make sure they respect them, give them choice and space, and really learn about what it means to have a relationship with a pet. So there's lots of work that goes on in education, and roughly we see around 65,000 children every year. We also have some fantastic services, and one of them being our pet loss service. So this is where it's any loss, actually. So it's not just a bereavement or a death of a pet. It could be that someone has outgrown their pony, and actually they don't know how to deal with that. They're very upset about it. So our pet loss team can support them through that. It might be that a pet has been stolen, that they've had to sign them over to a charity, or it could be that they've sadly lost them. So our pet loss team is there to support anybody, and there's lots of information on our website if you're interested. But it's got a lovely way. We do web chat, email, phone calls, and also support children as well. So that's a fantastic service. And last year, we really focused on pet food banks as well. So we understand how difficult it is for some people to provide food for their pets. We were hearing from people that it was a choice over actually not feeding themselves, but feeding their pets. So we have utilised the different human food banks that are around and provided pet food for them as well. And we've worked with Pets at Home, and we have store collections at our shops and things as well. So that's a fantastic service that Blue Cross offers. So as you can see, there's lots going on at Blue Cross, but I've just got a couple of videos just to kind of bring to life, really, some of the kind of horses that we help, but also what it means to work with Pony Club and actually rehome some of our ponies into Pony Club homes, which is always something that we are really keen to do. And so, Ellie, if you could just flick to the next slide. This is just a little case study of a pony called Gary.
So when we first got Gary, we couldn't get near him. We had to work quite hard to get him over his nervousness.
Got there in the end. Thank you, Ellie. And the next slide is just a little story really of a pony that's been rehomed into Pony Club homes. Now, for us, Pony Club homes are a fantastic opportunity because we know that we get an experience that members are really trying to look after their horses the best that they can. And what we often find is we can do what we call home direct. So it might be we've got a pony in a home that they maybe have outgrown or that they can't look after them anymore, and then we can rehome them straight from that home into a Pony Club home. So it means they don't have to come into the centre, which really, really helps as well because they don't have to go for isolation and things like that. So we'll see if this one works, Ellie.
I'm Charlotte and I'm 8 years old. Perry's 13. I've had him for just over a year and 6 months. I do a lot of dressage competitions and we're going to start going back to a bit of jumping competitions, only low though. It's good to have a rescue pony because you've helped the pony, and if you didn't get him, if no one got a Blue Cross pony, then the Blue Cross ponies would be left without home.
So we've heard a little bit about Blue Cross. We've now sponsored the Horse and Pony Care competition. I want to say for like 14 years, I think, Amelia, is that about right? So I've been involved from the beginning, actually, when Blue Cross started sponsoring the Horse and Pony Care competition. And for us, it fits into everything that we're about. And like I said before, we're so proud of each and every member that really tries to have an emphasis on that welfare and that care of the horses. So once again, a massive thank you from me. I'm so pleased that we're sponsoring again this year. And really excited to come see people at the championship. So do come over. We always have a little stand there with games and we try and help the members prep as well. So if your members make it to the champs, we would love to hear from you. But yeah, do get in touch with Blue Cross if we can help you in any way.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thanks.
Wonderful. That's great. How amazing, just how many lives you actually touch. It's incredible, isn't it? With the different ways and the fact that you've moved with the times and looked for ways to help. It's absolutely fantastic. So thank you. Thank you from all of us for all that you do for everybody and for us in particular. That's absolutely great. There may be, I don't know if you're waiting, Kerry, in case there are questions later. Are we going to sort of carry on now? Is that the plan? Yep.
Yes, I can stay for about 10 more minutes if that's all right. And then I've got to try and deal with the children to put to bed.
Yeah,
but I can email address as well if anyone needs me for anything.
Yep, that's lovely. Thank you. Super. So if we move on then, Ellie, to the next one, and I will now pass on to Amelia, who is Little Miss Horse and Pony Care, who will lead you through the rest of the evening. That's great.
Okay.
Thank you, Amelia.
Thank you, Lee, and thank you, Kerry, so much for coming and giving a presentation on behalf of the Blue Cross. And this competition is a joint venture with the Blue Cross, and we're extremely grateful for your sponsorship and also support. So my name is Amelia. Hopefully, a lot of people I've probably met before, but my name is Amelia Morris Payne, and I am the lead for the Horse and Pony Care, which is a voluntary role, and I took this over at the very end of 2018. And in 2018, we had 38 teams compete at the Pony Club Championships. In 2023, we had 125 teams compete at the Pony Club Championships. So we've grown massively in a short period of time. And one of the things that we've been working with is to engage more people in having a go at the Horse and Pony Care. So this is where we are tonight. Some people may have seen this presentation before, and we've added new bits to it. And there may be lots of people who are new and wanting to know about Horse and Pony Care. So Horse and Pony Care is a team competition. It's for 3 members in a team, and it is demonstrating their knowledge in a practical way with skills that are linked to the Pony Club tests and badges. There are 3 competitions, so there are 3 levels or competitions. We have a mini level, which is 10 and under, with 1 member being 8 and under, and this is our newest competition that we've been running now about 4 years, which is hugely popular. We had 48 teams at the championships last year competing. We have a junior level, which is 13 and under on the 1st of January, and 1 member has to be 11 and under. And the senior team, which is 25 years and under, with 1 member being 16 and under. And the competition is then split into different rounds or stations. And at the championships, there will be 10 stations. At some areas, there will be around eight that you'll be expected. So that is the competition as an overview. So one of the questions we often get asked at area and at championships is what can we wear? We are reasonably flexible, other than the fact that you need to be there with a hat and boots. We recommend that you wear your Pony Club jumper or a polo shirt. Possibly you could have a jacket or a gilet. You'll need gloves, Pony Club badge, and if you've got long hair, then your hair tied up in a hairnet. Joppers or workable trousers that are tidy and neat to do caring for a horse. So I think that sort of is where we are. That sort of picture there reflects a large percentage of the members that compete. So the sort of running of the day. So what you would expect if you went to an area. Each area will be slightly different. But we do have an area training. We've had an area training webinar to try and make all the areas linked together in a the same format. So at an area, you would need to declare your team. So you would enter beforehand. You want to have a team manager or a member that would a parent or member that is sorting out the teams that would be organised by your centre proprietor or your DC or team manager. So you would then declare on the day. You need to make sure that you've got labels that have your name of your members on them. Often these labels are provided by the organisers, but in a lot of cases at the areas you provide your own label, which would have your name on it and your branch or centre name. At the competition, there would be a briefing before the start of your level. So you attend the briefing, there will be a competitors briefing, and there is also an assessors briefing. The chief steward will explain the day, how the day is going to happen. They will thank the sponsors, which is the Blue Cross. It's not a spectator sport as such, so you can't really watch it. They're in stables, so it's a sort of hand the members over. The results should now all be on Pony Club results, so you should be able to be viewing live scores. You definitely can at the championships, and we are trying to encourage that at areas as much as possible. The team managers at the end of the competition, and this is something that doesn't always occur in all areas, and we want this to occur, so we have fed this back to the area organisers. You should be given your score sheets back, so so that you can check them, and then if you feel like you need to ask a question on anything on your score sheets, then you've got 15 minutes to ask these questions. So it is important that you do get your score sheets back, and that's something that we have fed back to all the area organisers. And at the end of the competition, there will be a prize giving. So so that's sort of, so we then go on to the question levels. So when we're looking at questions, each age category or group will have a different level of questions. So in the mini questions, the questions will be based around the E, D and the easy parts of the D+, and the mini horsemanship achievement badges. And at the championships, there will be a few more D+ questions. The juniors will be based along the D, D+ and C, and the easier parts of C+, and the main horsemanship achievement badges. And at the championships, it will cover more of the C+ and possibly some of the advanced achievement badges. And then the seniors is based around the C, C+, B and AH. With a few more AH questions coming up at the championship. So those are the questions. One of the questions that gets asked regularly is, can we have what rounds are going to be at the area, or can we pick them at the beginning of the year? But one of the reasons why we don't do that is because we would like the competitors to be all-round horsemanship members, and we want them to be able to train in all aspects of horsemanship. And what I would recommend as a team trainer, if you're a trainer here today, is if you go to the syllabus, particularly say like go to each level, minis, look at E, D and D+ and break it down, and you will soon start to work out there's going to be a saddlery round, there's going to be a grass kept pony round, there's going to be a points of the horse round, because they're in the syllabus a lot. And so you can kind of break it down into sort of sections, but ultimately, you know, you need to be working through the syllabuses. So that's your sort of question level. So we then go on to who writes the questions for the areas and who writes them for the championships. At the areas, they will be written by the chief assessor will potentially write those, or somebody within that area will write your questions. They're not written by Pony Club office or the team within the Pony Club office for the area. Then when we go to the championships, these questions will be written led and written by Fran, who is here tonight, and a team that will then work with Fran to write the questions. So on that note, we're going to sort of hand over to Fran, who is going to sort of start to talk to us about questions, and then we're going to work through the next few slides, which shows some of the questions and comparisons, and she'll also explain about scoring and how the scoring works and the number of questions. So we're going to hand over to Fran Penn.
Hello, can you hear? I'm not muted, am I? No, so that's good. Right. Okay, so as Amelia said, for area, the questions are based on the different levels of the tests and the achievement badges. And the reason that, well, we want each area to be able to pose the questions or set the questions in a way that will suit where they are holding competition, really, because essentially it's practical. Obviously, that has to be held within health and safety guidelines and horse handling and everything like that. And so it's what facilities you've got available, how you feel you could pick questions out of those different syllabi for the tests and so on, to make it as practical as possible without causing any health and safety issues with ponies being handled multiple times. As an area, again, it depends on how many teams you think you may have coming forward. So to actually organise the questions, to have that ability with the person who knows where the competition is going to be held and what facilities they will have available, I think is really important. We've got some questions up on here as examples. Really,
was going to say, Fran, these are basically showing that the mini, this is the mini level and then the junior level, and it's showing the difference between the two levels in standard, as well as what may be expected in the
area as opposed to the.
Then these potentially are sort of area stroke going on to championships questions. So this is sort of to give them an idea, and you could perhaps have a talk through some of the information in there and what would be expected. If you perhaps just pick one question on each of the things and we can work through them.
Okay, so with the mini level grass kept pony, okay, so give 6 signs that a pony looks healthy. That is weighted on, if you look at the scores, as 10 marks. And as a team thing, there should be plenty of opportunity for each member of the team to offer those signs. 6 signs, 3 members of the team, ideally 2 each. So when you move on to the championship, really daily checks, all of those things, it's going to map across, isn't it? If they can give you 6 signs of an area that a pony looks healthy, then if you look, you're expecting a little bit more detail in the questions at the championship level, but the level of knowledge is the same. You're just expecting them to transfer it to those different things. For instance, the daily checks you should make. So daily checks, does the pony look healthy? It's just a little bit asking for different scenarios at the championship level, I think. Same level of knowledge.
Yeah, so what it's showing here is that the left-hand side a mini level and the right-hand side a junior level.
Junior, so you're moving it up, yeah.
And what I would say within the juniors is in the minis, you are having more sort of questions that they're not quite one answer questions, but sort of more simple. But by the time they're starting to be in the juniors, we want more opinions and a sort of more sort of how they have done it at home, and starting to talk more in detail about, you know, like say describing the ideal paddock, where in the minis we sort of like showing them pictures and they're talking about that type of fencing and is it good or bad, and so it's a little bit sort of a much lower level. So, and then if we go on to the next slide, I think that goes and shows you from the mini. Now this is mini pony behavior and learning theory, and then it's a junior one, and whereby the mini one you can see there's a little bit more single answering questions where, so if you want to talk more, Fran, you can sort of explain the difference.
So again, for the minis, you've got to achieve your 50 marks. You're making them really simple. On this particular one, you have got 2 that are marked out of 10. So again, that's where you're breaking down examples where you want to each team member to be able to maybe give you a couple of points to that. Similarly with the juniors, you've got 2 questions marked out of 10. Again, so that you can hopefully involve the team members in giving a little bit more of an opinion. And I think with the learning theory, that's why we've tried to make those things, they're 5 marks for both minis and juniors, because they are things where there is almost a definitive answer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Should we go on to the next? So then we go on to look at the comparison where we're now going from junior to senior. So these were both, they're both traveling and loading, or traveling, where the first one is traveling and loading, the senior level, it's traveling and competing. Yeah. So Fran will perhaps talk to you about those a little bit more.
Okay, so with the junior ones, with traveling and loading, pretty basic. You're beginning to get, hopefully, the kids, the members, giving you what is hopefully what they're going to do. Obviously, they're going to be supervised to a large extent by an adult. So you've got the equipment, for instance, what can be used and identifying equipment and why they would use it. On the senior level, it's asking to give a checklist of things you would do to prepare, which would include what you would need to, you know, how they would map across. You've got the equipment on the junior level, say what it is and why you would use it. On the senior level, what do you need? So it's putting a bit more responsibility at senior level on the competitor to say what preparation they need to do the day before and so on.
Yeah, cool. Should we go on to the next? Yeah. Okay, so again, this is linking two sort of similar subjects. Within the Pony Club Championships level, we will often have 2 tack rounds. We will often say, there you can see here it says tack B, so there was obviously a tack A. So but in the juniors, we were the Laurenry and tack cleaning had gone into 1 round together. So Laurenry being any metalwork, but basically we were focusing on bits, and then the seniors, it was tack B, which is again on bits. So you can again see, so Fran will sort of talk through quite a sort of where the juniors is quite a lot more simple and the seniors are showing much more depth.
Yeah, and I think you can look at that if you look at the marking scheme. So identifying bits, name a selection of bits. It would be a set amount, 5 bits maybe, 1 mark each, or sometimes we do 6 because that divides into 3 easily. So each member can hopefully name 2. Whereas for the senior level, you're asking them to put the bits into families and tell you what the families of bits are called. And then talk about their actions a little bit more. Whereas you're splitting that action down for juniors a little bit more specifically, as you can see from the questions and the marks. Yeah, I think it's fairly self-explanatory.
Yeah. And one of the things that sort of comes to mind, sort of, I've experienced it within assessing myself, is that if a member picked up the Pelham, for instance, and held it upside down and possibly facing it back to front in the angle of the way the bit should position in the mouth, and they said this was a Pelham bit, they are likely to not get full marks because they're holding the bit upside down. So their knowledge of the actual bit, they might be able to name the bit, but actually their knowledge of the way the bit should be directed in the mouth is possibly slightly weaker. So sometimes, you know, someone will say to me, well, they told them it was a Pelham, but they didn't get full marks. And that is possibly where sometimes, if they're not holding equipment correctly, could affect their score. So those are sort of things that I work a lot on.
Yeah, and I think with that one, particularly with the Pelham, so if you look at question for the juniors, question 4 and question 5, so one of the team members might pick up the Pelham and identify it as the Pelham and say where it acts quite correctly. They put it down again, somebody else picks it up, they go to show how to do the curb chain up, and they've turned it upside down. So there is the potential in those 2 sections for one to get 5 out of 5, and the next mark, maybe you drop 1 mark or 2 because they're not handling it correctly.
Yeah, so that's sort of giving an idea of sort of these are the levels of questions and this is what's sort of expected, and how the mark is given. You won't expect to get a comment on every box. There will be comments made where it was appropriate. So you know, there isn't possibly time to put a comment in every box, but there will be sometimes comments made, you know, if it's felt it was necessary. So that's where the comment box goes. Okay, so I think we go on to assessors. So we're going to carry on with Fran, and this is the assessors, and Fran is the lead assessor. So what is the role of an assessor on the day? There you go, Fran.
Well, the role of the assessor on the day, each assessor will have been given their section or station to assess, their topic to assess. So their role will have been, having been aware earlier of the questions in the section they've got, to be happy that you know, they know what those questions involve. After that point, it is their job to give their mark, give their opinion on how well those teams answer those questions. We hope, well, we do, we know, we don't hope, we know that those assessors are confident at the level they are assessing. They know what the correct answer would be, but this is a practical competition as much as we can make it within the realms of health and safety and pony welfare. So, or horse and pony welfare. So it's a little bit like as an assessor or as a dressage judge, you know, you've got to look at that competition, you've got to look at that movement, you've got to decide out of those given marks where you think that team lies. So the role of the assessor is to, having interpreted the questions, known what they expect, to then put their opinion onto that. So how do the assessors score the competition? There is a mark scheme. So they are giving their mark within that question, whether it's a 5 out of 5, whether they think that team have not answered one part or not handled a piece of equipment. I think the bitting we've just been talking about is a really good example of that. You know, they might know the actions of the pelham, they might know how you do a curb chain up to make it flat, but they might have been holding the bit upside down. So it's not, you're not expected to remember what the team before did or the team 10 teams back. You are actually literally, as an assessor, looking at what's in front of you, looking at how well that team perform, how they work together to give you the information, and how correct that information is. The assessor briefing, again, with that, it's about at the beginning of the competition, the chief assessor should make sure that everybody is happy. They haven't got any queries about anything. They've looked at a question and thought, well, how should, you know, what's expected of that? Have I got, you know, if you want to ask a question about that and you haven't, or it's something that's occurred to you in between having your questions and the day the competition starts. It's also about making sure every assessor is happy with the equipment they've been provided with the horses and ponies they've got available, how those are going to work, whether they're going to be changed over, that they know how long and what the timings are, whistles and timing, you know, when you start, when you finish, when your sheet's going to be collected. And also at the assessor briefing, are there any reasonable adjustments that you need to know about for any specific teams? Says here, ask the assessor to rephrase the question if you're unsure. Again, the question is written, the assessor does have the ability to phrase it in the way they think is best. But having said that, assessors won't have the time or won't be encouraged to, like keep leading competitors and keeping on changing a question and trying to like dig a little deeper, because then you're going to run out of time. And one really important thing for assessors is that they do go down the whole questions, all of the questions in their section, so that they can award a mark for every question.
Okay, cool. So any coaches that are in here tonight, there is a assessors training on the 30th of January, which is another webinar. This is a new webinar that we're running this year, which is for anybody who's interested in becoming an assessor, you know, that would help in areas and things like that. We aren't in control of booking assessors for the areas, but by doing this training, it will help and support assessors. And we're going to give more information on that night for the assessors. So that training is coming up. We're going to go on to the next slide, and we're having a quick pause for a few questions. And my question panel team are going to leap into action. And I think they're going to possibly read out a few questions and either answer them, or I can answer them if they want me to, or they can answer what they've written. So I think we'll hand over now to Elizabeth and Di, and they can sort of take over and just do a few questions before we move on.
Okay, there's a few open questions in the Q&A, and there's quite a lot of that have been answered already. But if I look at the open questions, there's a question that says, where do the labels go? I think, Amelia, that was when you talked about labels at the beginning.
Yeah, so at the areas, the labels will be placed on their jumpers or jackets, depending on what the weather is like. And so it will go sort of just, or I suppose in the True Pony Club, on the left side, it doesn't matter, but we always like to put the things on the left. I've seen some teams that actually have created their own little plastic label that they've sort of pinned onto themselves, but some areas will provide their own labels. We provide the labels at the championships, and we always put, and we have a bib and a team number, and so they will wear a bib, and it always goes on the either the tallest or the smallest. I can't remember which. We always put it on.
Tallest.
So is it the tallest? Yeah,
tallest, because they go in the middle for the photo.
That's it for the photo.
Yeah. So it looks better in the pictures.
Yeah, that's
okay. Thank you. I hope that answers
pictures there. That was.
Yeah. I hope that answers the questions. That was from Lola Evans. Elizabeth wants to answer this question. It says from Gemma. The one, if one of the team members doesn't answer, but the other team members do, are points deducted. It says Elizabeth Hughes would like to answer this question.
Oh, I was going to point it to Amelia.
Oh, okay. Amelia or Fran.
Okay. So
I'm just meaning that we would answer it live rather than typing it up.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So this question, so it will very, very much depend on the assessor. If there's 3 children members in a team, and well they are, and the assessor directs the question at number 1 in the team, and that child cannot answer it, and then number 2 child answers it, then they won't get full marks, because the first one was directed as the question and wasn't able to answer it. If the assessor opens it to all 3 and then one of them replies, then they wouldn't get deducted. As an assessor, if I was assessing, and I think Fran would agree with this, if team member 1 answered the first 3 questions, then I would be wanting the other 2 members to start to be involved, and I would be directing a question at number 2 and number 3. So that's, so in that respect,
Could I just jump in there briefly, Amelia, that some of the questions we looked at when we said that there would be like 3 or 6 things, there are 3 team members. As an assessor, I would say, right, you know, I would like you to give me 2 things each. So if as an assessor you've specified that, you would expect all of them to give you 2 things.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can open it up and say, you know, it wants to be a more open thing where they can all contribute, and particularly I think that's at senior level. And that is then where, if somebody is completely doesn't partake at all, then yes, I think in that situation, where you've made it a little more open and somebody has not offered it anything, then yes, you might deduct a mark.
The other thing I would say is, depending on the assessor style, and we can't, all assessors are slightly different.
Yeah.
If we had 6 items on a table and 3 team members, you might expect the members have said, pick up 2 each, and they're not offered them. They're just, you can pick up any 2. At that point, you would be trying to teach your children that they allow their weakest, youngest member to pick first, so that they could pick what possibly could be the easiest bits, or that the younger member has more knowledge in, so can pick those. If you let the youngest one be last and the first 2 are more knowledgeable, the youngest one might be left with stuff that they don't know. So it really very much depends on the style of the assessor, to whether they say you pick, or whether the assessor goes, right, there's your 2, there's your 2, and there's your 2. And that is the luck of the assessor, but that assessor will be doing exactly the same all day.
Yeah, and I also think that that's where at the assessor briefing, and given that the assessors have seen their questions prior to the start of the competition, that's where, you know, you can offer a little bit of guidance to the assessors if you are the person that's written the questions and you know how you wanted it weighted, really. And that should be obvious in the mark scheme, but again, there is that scope for that discussion, so that we can hopefully set it up as Amelia's described.
Okay, was that okay, Elizabeth?
Yeah, so that'll link on to your question from Chris, who says that, how is a team assessed when one member is super confident and knows all the answers to all the questions?
So at this point, then the team trainer needs to brief the children so that they learn to do it in a certain way. I would say that the oldest, most experienced team member often doesn't lead off with the first answer if they're opening it up to everybody, and the oldest one will often, or the most experienced one, will sort of let the younger one say a bit, and then they will then talk about the rest of it. So it's then teaching a technique within your team, so that your youngest and or weakest one does a little bit, but the more capable one can sort of hold it all together and sort of lead it in a direction. So there's a skill for the most capable one to help the younger ones to perform and support them without letting them say things that perhaps are incorrect, which obviously is going to affect the mark. So that's the sort of skill in that. That's in the training.
Okay, so the next 2 questions kind of go together. We've got Natalie and Nicole. Natalie is asking how long is each section, and Nicole is asking how long will the quiz take?
Okay, so each section, minis are 8 minutes around, up to 10 rounds. You could quite easily expect you might have 7 to 10 rounds at the area. The juniors and seniors will have a 10-minute rounds. And there will often be a break halfway through, where there'll be drinks and biscuits, and if you're in area 8 you get cake.
Lots of cake in area 8.
But they'll get drinks and biscuits potentially. It will also depend on timing. If you have got, say you've got 12 teams in the competition and 10 rounds, you might have what we call 2 blank rounds, and those blank rounds will have drinks and biscuits in them. And so the rounds keep going and the assessors don't get a break, but the children get 2 breaks. If they're running on a 10 teams, then you will have probably a 5-minute break at halfway point. So the length of time that the competition will be 8 minutes of 10 plus a break. So that's 80 minutes plus, that's 90 minutes. And the seniors will be 10-10s. So that's sort of with a break. So that gives you an idea of the length of time. So it's about 1 hour and 20 minutes for the seniors. Is that right? I'm not very good on the maths. Elizabeth's that person. So yeah. So does that help? As far as we didn't go over whistles and bells and whistles, at the start of the competition at each round, there'll be a whistle to say go. At 2 minutes from the end, there should be a bell to say you've got 2 minutes left. So that's your finish your last question. And then a whistle to swap you to the next stable, and then you'll move on. So that sort of is that. Okay. Any more, or do you want us to carry on?
There are a few more. Area 12, Oakley Hunt West, Ava. I think Ellie's just answered that one. Alice has asked, are they allowed to confer before answering as a team?
Depending on whether the question was an open question to the team, so yes. If it was a directed question at one individual, then no. But that will depend again on the style of your assessor. So if it's an open question to the whole group, then yes. The minis, I think, are more likely to be handed like 2 pictures each and talk about a picture, 2 pieces of equipment each and talk about equipment, where the seniors are much, much more likely to be asked a question and work together as a team. If they need to confer, then I feel that they are slightly lacking confidence in the question, and the strongest teams wouldn't need to confer. So that would be something that I think you need to just consider, is that when you're practicing, is do they need to actually confer? Can they do it without conferring? And is it a style that you want to encourage? Because conferring kind of basically means that the most skillful member is going to tell the answer to the others. So is that a good technique? I don't know is the answer. So, but if it's an open question, theoretically, they could confer. I don't know whether you want to add to that, Fran, because that's something.
I think that they can, if it's an open question, I think, yeah, that's fine. Just to say, oh, well, do you want to say this? Or do you want to go first? You know, obviously, if they've got the knowledge as a team, they might want to discuss the order they want to answer the question or offer the information in. And that's, okay, yeah, that's conferring, but it's discussing who's going to give what information. I think if they're actually like literally huddling together in a corner, you know, with, as Amelia said, one person telling the others the answer because they feel everybody should contribute. And that can, the problem with that is, obviously, somebody doesn't know and one person does, and they're like, oh, so you say that so-and-so. Yeah, well, that's not the same as organising or discussing on who gives the information. Does that make sense? It's,
I think the conferring
the others, you don't want them to be prompting, organising and trying to organise who gives the information is one thing. Actually, one person telling the other what to say is quite another.
And I think that the thing that they need to consider, I agree, if they're just conferring saying, oh, you go first, then I go second, and then that's fine. I think if there's a lot of conferring going on and a lot of discussing, what tends to happen is within the 10 minutes, the time quite quickly
exactly.
runs away.
Yeah.
And then they run out of time. So that's something you need to be mindful of. And it's something that they learn to sort of do. So yeah. Right, next question then. Are we doing any more?
Just this last one, because we've been asked this for quite a lot of times.
Okay.
Although there are past papers for each section on the website, they wondered, could there be a chosen round where exemplary answers for individual sections are set out?
Explain that in in Amelia's English for me.
So that where we've got examples of questions on the website of what to ask in horse and pony care, could you not put answers and what you would expect to receive from the members?
Yes, in theory we can. It's just one of these jobs that's can be quite time consuming, because particularly when the minis, it's not minis and even the juniors, by the time we get to the seniors, it could be like, you know, you could be looking at sort of a large section of a syllabus of
I think it says, the actual question says, I wondered, could there be a chosen round where exemplar answers are included? So maybe just an example of one showing what would get the full marks for that one.
Yes, I think it is something that I suppose as we evolve this competition and we become better, this will be something that we probably could work towards doing. And we like to listen to feedback, and we try and evolve with the feedback as well. So yes, that's something we could try and do in my busy world.
Yeah, and I think just as I would like to stress that, you know, your assessors are individual people. There is a right and a wrong answer, but certainly as you move up the levels, there are different opinions, and different people would accept different things to, you know, within a certain parameter. So if it would help to give a guideline in each of the sections, so long as we're not giving like sample answers for everything, which would take, you know, the next 100 years. But I think, yeah, that would be something we could look at doing, certainly.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so we're going to go on how to train a team and how to put a team together. So I'm going to switch them around, and I'm going to do the how to put a team together probably, and then we'll go on and talk about the training side of it. So with putting a team together, how we sort of try and encourage is if you can do sort of badge nights and training nights which include achievement badges, and don't just sell it as horse and pony care training, and that they're getting sort of rewards as they're going along, is a really good way of sort of training a team. Whenever you train a team, we try and encourage you to train like a large number rather than just the 3 that are in the team, because what we find is somebody then goes on holiday or is poorly or away, and so then actually can't attend the competition, and we do get some substitutes from area to championships. So if you've got a group of members training, that sort of can help you. So running a badge night regularly, I find that the teams that do really well are doing it sort of throughout the year, not just cramming, say, 2 or 3 weeks before the area. So that's sort of putting a team together. You know, we'll talk about combined teams in a bit, but also there is now ability to have a combined team. So particularly with like your senior members, a lot of senior members are friends with members out of other branches or centres, and they could sort of come together and do a sort of a team thing. Training tips. When we go on to the sort of next slide, I can sort of show you a few pictures of some training tips. But what I would say within the training tips is very much about practicing. So the difference between, say, learning the syllabus and actually doing it in a style to answer the questions as a team of 3. The sort of things that we sort of want you to spend some time doing is learning like a recall on so if I held up a dandy brush, I would like the members to instantly go, groom's a grass-kept pony, don't groom the head of a pony, don't groom the mane and tail, don't groom the legs of a fine horse, don't groom a clipped horse with a dandy brush. So immediately we want to sort of, what we don't want is when you hold up the back body brush, they say, we don't want them to be saying, well, when I went to the beach last weekend and I rode on the beach and my pony galloped off with me and I got bucked off, and then when we came back we brushed it with that brush, which is a body brush. It kind of like, it's a lovely story and we all love hearing them, but it kind of sort of loses that the time. So we want them to work on sort of team sort of technique in the training, practicing answering and sharing the questions out. but very much sort of breaking down the syllabus and picking out the points that you really see as a key point, and trying not to sort of overload them with lots of things, and give them key points that you feel are relevant, that will give them a reasonably good chance of an answer. So sort of looking at a case study, a new team who's never done it before but wants to get started. Advertise the actual horse and pony care on your website or Facebook, explain what it's about, perhaps talk to members that are doing achievement badges and say, you know, we've got this competition coming up. Run a little competition in your branch or centre so that you can have a practice. So sort of getting a new team together. I think the biggest fear is going into the unknown. And so maybe putting for a friendly competition, putting someone that's done it before with two members that have, you know, don't always put your strongest ones all together, get the strongest ones to be in other teams and help them at a friendly, something like that. A team wanting to improve their results. So that's a question I get asked a lot for members going to the championships, and how can we get in the top 10? And I would obviously say, you know, the more training you do and the more things you work on, and working on recall of information is probably really important in a quick and concise way. And a new team going to the championships for the first time, what I say is that it's super exciting to go to the championships. I think that in the mini level, for instance, and the junior level, mini level, there's 48 teams for 10 rosettes. The junior level, there was 44 teams for 10 rosettes. You know, the championships is so much more than just being on the podium. It's about being there, it's being at the championships, and we're all incredibly proud of everybody that competes. Everybody gets a rosette from the Blue Cross. They all had a little prize last year that was donated, and so there's lots of other things available at the championships, which I'll talk about, I think, in the next slide. So, you know, a new team going to the championships, maybe chat to members that have previously done it, get the older members to help train the younger members. That's another great way. So that's sort of putting teams together. So the next slide is really a slide to show you some things and ideas of how you can deliver. I feel very passionate about the fact that members shouldn't be lectured, so that the activities that you do with your members to train are not just a sort of verbal lesson where it's you talking to the member and there isn't a lot of activity going on. It's quite unengaging. There lacks a little bit of fun. And I find that you engage more members if you can create a little bit of fun and activities. And if you just look at a few of these slides or photos, it's showing different ways that you can create fun learning. So say, for instance, I have quite a lot of laminated pictures that we can draw on, and these are the youngest members, and we've had members that are 4, 5 and 6 going into the horse and pony care, and yes, they are quite little, the 5-year-olds, but you know, they've done some training and they want to participate, and they love having, you know, a day. The one on the left-hand side, the yellow hexagon shape, that is a game where it's a recall game. So it will say, there'll be a card that will say front of the saddle, and then you're looking for pommel. It might say head collar, and you might want lead rope. It might say poisonous plant, and then you've got to find ragwort or something like that. And that's a good way of sort of putting down a game that they can play. It also means, say if you've got 10 or plus members all training at the same time, you could have some that are doing a hexagon while others are practicing tacking up, so that you're supervising that. I use quite a lot of chalk on yards and drawing and labelling that you can do with the members. And then obviously the older members there, you can see the bits. I've got all the bits to go with those pictures. So I have the bits, I have the pictures, I have the words for the mouthpiece, the cheek piece, the material, the action, the family, and they're all different colours. So there's some, you know, the name of the bit, they're all different colours, and they can place those on the bits and work through that. And then obviously, you know, use your resources of knowledgeable people in your areas, vets, farriers, dentists, yards, studs for your older members, and think about where you can go and take them, where they can have a learning moment or a light bulb moment, or a moment where they'll remember it because they've seen it or touched it. So that sort of thing. So that's just some sort of pictures that, you know, just to give you a bit of an idea. So we then go on to the rule book. So an update from our side is I was lead volunteer of the Horse and Pony Care, and at the end of October there was formed a horsemanship committee, and the horsemanship committee is now looking after Horse and Pony Care, quiz and the art competition. So it is now all led by a committee, and we are sitting with a few committee members here tonight. It's a voluntary role, and I am chairman of this committee, and with that we have a rule book which we've had for a few years, but it's now including the quiz, and the quiz is very much linking in with the Horse and Pony Care. In the rule book, we have new rules for this year. So there's the odd new rule. One of them that you might just have noticed on the questions was there was no teamwork mark. We have decided to remove the teamwork mark for each round, which was 5 marks per round. So in total, if they had 10 rounds, it was 50 points. And we have decided this year, there was sort of, we've had a talk about it as a committee and decided to remove that, so that the scores are purely on knowledge, not on style of the way the team has worked. So that's sort of one thing. Number of qualifiers, there's a slide on that, so I'll explain that in further. We felt there's a best individuals round, best individuals prize, and at the Pony Club Championships we've now made that 1st to 3rd, because we've had such good quality and it's always been hard to pick the winner, so we've now decided to go from 1st to 3rd. We've got a new substitution rule, so now one member has to have been in the area team. So you can only substitute 2 members of your team for the championships. So that's changed. So you have to have 1 member. If there was sort of a mega reason why you couldn't field your 3 members for whatever reason, then you would need to come to office and we would then review it to decide whether we think that your case was you know, that we could let you have all new members for the team for the championships. And the other thing is that when you enter your team at the area and the championships, it's really important that your team name starts with your branch or centre. So it mustn't be a team name that's just, I don't know, like My Little Pony, and it's got no links to your branch or centre. So you need to have your team name, and then if you've got multiple teams, then you could choose a word. So the other day at the friendly we had Dartmoors, Exmoors, New Forests in one team. We had Hawks, Owls, Eagles. We had Daisies, Buttercups, Daffodils. You could have red, blue, green, but you must start with your branch or centre name. So there's sort of a few rules in the rule book, and we'll move on to the next slide. So area teams, this is also a slightly tweaked rule. So if you are unable to field a full team from your own branch or centre, you could reach out to another branch or centre in your area and combine. You would need to get the permission of both DCs or centre proprietors and the area representative for that team to form. So it's a good way, particularly the older members. If you've got members out there that are training for AH or B test, but you haven't got a full team, then reach out to your neighbouring branch or centre and see if they've got someone and whether you can join together. You could have a member from 3 branches or centres in one team together, so it would be then an area team, or they could be 2 from one and another from another branch. So think about that particularly. And whilst there's some on that subject, we are having an area team competition for the quiz finals for the seniors. So if there's any seniors out there, we are running an area team for the quiz finals. So sort of bear that in mind. I know that's dropping into a different subject. So we go on to who qualifies. She says, so who qualifies for the championships? The winning team qualifies. Any area where there is 10 or more teams in your class, you will be guaranteed 2 spaces. If there is 15 teams, you will get 3 spaces. This rule was there last year, but we still had teams that didn't realise they were qualified. So it's really important that you make sure you count how many teams were at your competition and, you know, check so that it's 10 for 2 and 15 for 3. There may be invitations depending on how many qualify, and the invitations won't be given out until very much closer to the championships once the areas have finished. So if you are in a large area, so we had an area where we had 31 mini teams in their area, that area potentially will get extra qualifiers. So, but it will go on what scores they got, sort of type of thing. So it's linked to their score percentage. The substitute I've spoken about, so you can substitute 2 of your 3 team members. So we then go on to results, which I think, Elizabeth, do you want to talk about results and or do you want me to carry on? Oh, you're on mute.
I'll let you carry on.
Okay.
Amelia.
So the results, once you've qualified, the team manager will be given a qualifying letter. They'll either be given it on the day or sort of quite soon afterwards. Pony Club office will contact the team manager to tell them that they have qualified, and all results will be on Pony Club results. When it comes to the prize giving in the mini section, all mini competitors will get a rosette on the day for competing, and I can't promise you that in the juniors or seniors, but that is our goal, is to everybody to have a rosette. So that is the results. What happens if you qualify? So team managers will get sent a qualifying card, or being told by Ellie will email them basically, won't you, Ellie, to tell them they've qualified. Entries will be on horse events. The things that always are slightly is when they're entered spelt incorrectly and then it goes on to the hoodie wrong. The other thing is the hoodies, always the entries need to be in for the hoodies about 6 days before the entries close. So if you qualify for the championships, please try and enter your team early enough, because if you want your names on the hoodies, they need to be in sooner, and it's never quite the close of entry. It's always warned on Facebook and things beforehand. If you can't take your place at the championships, please let us know. We need to hand your place down. It's not for your team to contact the next team and say you can have the spot. It's for us, so we're fully aware of where the spots are going. It will be handed down in your area, so if you don't go, it will be handed down, but it's for us to be in control of that so we know who's coming. And yes, once the entries are closed, then the running order will be up sort of within a couple of days of the entries closing as quickly as we can get them into a running order. If you are entering any other competition at the championships, then you need to make sure that that's listed on the entry form, so we're aware of it, because we end up having to do quite a lot of changing around, which isn't helpful at the end of teams. So sort of bear that one in mind. Okay, what to expect at the championships? Just a few things to expect at the championships. The people that have never been to the championships for the horse and pony care before sometimes get caught out by this, but the stables are roughly a 15-minute walk from the main hub. There is a shuttle bus, and initially people are like, gosh, it's a long way from the championships, but it's not really. And it's a beautiful stable yard, and we're sort of, it's nice and quiet, and we can sort of get on with the competition without lots of the noise and the bustle of the sort of championships. So do bear in mind that it's a 15-minute walk. There is a level each day. So minis are on the Thursday, the juniors on the Friday, and the seniors are on the Saturday. Last year in the juniors and the minis, we had four runnings. So we had session 1, session 2, session 3, and session 4, and the prize giving was after session 4. The questions will be similar to the area with a few harder ones, and the results and the prize giving will be at the end of the day in the main marquee, and the winners will stand on the podium. There's so much to see at the championships, so there's lots to watch, lots of trade stands, lots going on, lots to inspire them to want to come back again. There's a fan zone, which was included last year, which was really good. And the most important thing is it's just make sure that you go and thank our sponsors, and they have a stand and they love you going to speak to them. So that's the championships. I think that you need to be incredibly proud if you get to the championships. It's a great day. We love having you, and it's so exciting to see you all at the championships. So that is our championships. And then what else is on offer? So on offer, most important thing is the 3rd of March, we have the quiz area. The quiz area has come under the umbrella of the horsemanship committee now, and we've revamped the quiz and made it more practical and more linking in with the horse and pony care. So if you've got a team that you're thinking about going to the horse and pony care, then really think about going to the quiz. The quiz is a great interactive competition and lots of fun, and the finals is going to be at Sheffield Wednesday Football Stadium, which is going to be really good to see and very exciting. My goal would be that we run friendlies all around the country, and that lots of branches and centres that are here tonight are inspired to run a friendly. In area 6, which is the area that I am based in, well, I'm in area 6 and 7, I live on the borders, they have quite a few friendlies, and they're incredibly popular, both quiz and horse and pony care. This picture is of a tabletop horse and pony care, which is a village hall version. So there's an assessor at each table, but there's no ponies. It's in the winter. This was ran in November, and there's equipment on each of the tables, and they're doing it like horse and pony care, and it's just in the warmth. So that's another option. And then the other competition that's about to finish on the 18th of February is the art competition. So do go and search out the art competition. And if I could point you in the direction of something called the collaborative art, which is a art where a group of members are creating some art together, and then they take a photo of it and submit that picture. So it can be individual, but there is now a team section. So, do think about whether you could fit that in between now and the 18th of February, because and it's sponsored by Thirlwell. So there we go. Right, back to our team of Elizabeth and Di.
Thank you. So there's one question which has come up, and this is from M, whoever M is. I understand it's teams of 3 and can be made up from another branch. Can you enter a team of 2 if you cannot get a third person in area or someone is ill, for example, on the day? We had teams of 2 and a friendly, but want to check that teams of 2 will be okay for the area competition if someone is ill on the day, etc.
They need to be a team of 3. If for whatever reason the member is poorly on the day and they are not able to attend, they will not be turned away. I would not like to see a team stood on the podium at the championships that had qualified as a team of 2 and they attend as a team of 2, because it is a team of 3 competition. So I don't think you would be turned away, but it is a team of 3 competition. Sorry, that was a bit vague really, but you know.
Okay, thank you. There were a few other questions that were on the chat that Elizabeth and Ellie have been doing a great job of answering. If a child is challenged with autism or similar, can the assessor be notified prior to competition?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely that would come through in the assessor briefing.
Great.
Yeah. At
Lovely.
the minute, any child that needs additional support would need to fill out the reasonable adjustment form on the Pony Club website, submit that to the organizer of the competition a fortnight before, or at least a fortnight before, and in the reasonable adjustment explain what sort of reasonable adjustment that they may need. It can be something quite unusual, like I had a reasonable adjustment last year where the member had anxiety and couldn't wear a certain clothing, so we allowed them and I think they couldn't wear a hat tag, and so it was, or a label or something like that, so then we will adjust to that. So, and we would make the assessors aware of that, and they would potentially sort of maybe you know, sort of deal with each situation as appropriate. So yes, so the reasonable adjustment form. There is also a really good, no, you tell them, Di, because you've been on it.
Well, I have been on it. If there's any coaches on here, I don't think there's one at the moment, but there's a very good reasonable adjustment CPD, which is a Zoom course. If you look on the Pony Club CPD courses, I have asked if we can have another one, which is talking about making reasonable adjustments as an assessor and as a coach. So just for general use, it's very good, but it would be particularly useful for this competition for assessors.
Yeah. If there's any problem with your organizer and your reasonable adjustment, then you need to come back to Pony Club office and speak to Ellie, and then we will support the organizer with how we're going to help with the reasonable adjustment. We don't want any child to be excluded. Everybody's included. So this is, yeah, so that's, so if you need more support, then come to us and we will assist you. Cool.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yeah, there's a question in the chat. Can you wear short or long boots?
Yes, either.
Yeah.
And you could wear yard boots as well, as in like sort of, you know, we said someone asked last year, can a member wear sort of yard boots and smart trousers? And the answer is yes, as long as they look smart and workmanlike, and it's not jeans and they're not ripped, and they're clean and tidy, then yes. So yes, long boots or short boots, yeah.
There's no other open questions. We have Ellie and Elizabeth have answered questions in the Q&A under the answered section, so people can flick through that if they want to.
Okay.
What I'll do is when I post the recording on the Horse and Pony Care website, I'll put together some FAQs from this evening just so that people can have a look at that afterwards.
So my overall tip really is for anybody new to not be put off from doing this. The children have a lovely time, and I've heard things like, you know, oh, we've won a yellow rosette and we've won a green rosette, so this year we want to win a pink rosette. That it's not all about, you know, a lot of the members, you know, sort of are doing this for the first time. They love doing it. They love seeing a new yard. They love seeing the ponies. We had a little team that went through in one of the areas last year, and they were very, very tiny. And when it came to the rosettes, they were given their rosettes first. And they came out and said they were over the moon because they'd won, because they were called up first. And to this day, I don't think they realised that they hadn't actually won, but they thought they did. So I think having a go is really important. And I think the vision of the horse and pony care really is that if we don't teach these members to look after the ponies and the welfare of the ponies, then they won't be happy and healthy to perform when being ridden. So even though I am a ridden coach, I'm hugely passionate about educating children and members in looking after their ponies and being confident around their ponies. And I think that's, you know, vital. It's vital that the members do this sort of thing so that they're all round equestrian members. So that's sort of, there we go.
So Amelia, if there are 10 rounds, will they all be different subjects?
Yes. And in some cases, they will be more than one subject in a round. So like, for instance, there was Laurenry and tack cleaning. And for instance, there might be a safety round. And in the safety round, that would include yard safety, field safety, fire safety. It could include sort of more than one thing. But it would be 10 different things. At the area, they're more than likely just going to be one subject, like care of the foot, tack, keeping a pony at grass, loading. At the championships, they often have a round in the minis where it's equipment identification, and it's a table with lots of equipment on it, and they have to tell what the equipment is and what it's used for, that type of thing. So yeah.
And there's one final question, which is, what type of hat silk can you wear?
I think as long as it's not bright pink, even though I'd like it to be. We're quite happy for them to be kind of like the colour of their jumper, if that's what they, you know. I can't quite remember what the rules say.
I think the rules doesn't actually specify, but I think what you're saying is what most children would wear, a black navy or similar.
Yeah. So like, I know that one of the local branches to us, they have a green jumper, and most of the children have a green silk, like a dark green silk. So things like that. So I don't think we want to be going sort of too leery, but I don't really think we're too worried if they went in a colour silk that matched their jumper. I think we even showed that on some of the photos earlier.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, there's a question about bright orange with orange silk.
What, the jumper's bright orange?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. You heard it here. If anyone complains. And there's one final. There's a few questions popping up. Oh, yay is the answer, is the response to that one. Do we need to wear Pony Club jumpers?
Either your jumper or your Pony Club polo shirt, or a white shirt with your Pony Club tie. So if it was very, very hot in the summer, we would want you to probably come in polo shirts or white shirts and Pony Club ties. But
last year we were peeling their jumpers off them at the championships, weren't we?
The championships.
It was so hot one of the days.
The areas that are running in April, they're going to be in jackets, probably. And again, do they need a branch jacket or branch or centre jacket? No, they don't. But a lot of them may do. But, you know, again, we don't want them to get cold. So, no, they could, you know, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So can I just say, before you wrap up and before everybody goes, a massive thank you to Amelia and Fran for giving up their time to do this. And I know a lot of work has gone into preparing for this, and also to Ellie, who's done a lot of the work in preparing for this, and Elizabeth as well, who is tip-top scorer at the championship. So huge thanks to everybody.
So thank you everybody. Thank you, Fran. If anybody needs any help and support, then reach out to Ellie in Pony Club office, and she will try and answer your questions. And if she's not sure, she'll find someone who can. So good luck. Share your photos with Ellie, would be really good. See if we can drive some horse and pony care pictures through to the main Facebook page. That would be really lovely from your areas. And yeah, generally keep in touch, and let's make this even bigger than it already is. I'm not quite sure how we're fitting you all in, but you know, we'll worry about the logistics. So thank you, everybody.